Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we've got playa props here with 9 games in the NBA here on Wednesday. We've also got an episode up, as always, with our best bets, with some looks at sides and totals. Nate's got a nice little parlay for you in there as well, if you want to check that one out. Subscribe to that page and follow along with us all season. Also want to tell you about the thelines.com email newsletter. That has everything that you need to know about what's going on the lines.com, so you can stay updated with all the coverage we're bringing you for across all of these sports, including the NBA, where we will be dropping a bonus pick from our show into the newsletter. Not going to be giving it on the show, but Nate and I collabing on a special bonus pick there. I think we'll probably try to get some parlays and look at some plus money for those bets and help us get those units up. But definitely want to check out that stuff, and we are ready to get into what we've got here for Wednesday, Nate. So let's jump into your first playa prop here for the night.
Go Scotty Barnes, 12.5 rebounds and assists against the Pacers. Toronto will be on a back-to-back here, so we could be without Emmanuel Quickley, in addition to Jakob Poeltl, who's been out consistently here. Strangely, Barnes has not rebounded more without Poeltl. He kind of depends on him boxing out, but he is still leading the team in rebound chances without JP here. The last 6, 12.7 chances, grabbing 8 of those. So that's certainly enough. And then you look at the assist bump he could get if IQ is out. He goes from 4.9 to 7 assists per game without IQ. As far as rebounding, though, this is the matchup for it, right? I mean, Indy's back to their super fast pace where they are actually second to worst in rebound rate and playing at a 102 pace since they came back from Paris. That's an 11-game span. And Scotty over this number in 7 straight against the fast-paced Pacers, averaging 22, 9.3, 7.5. He had 12 rebounds in 3 straight going into their last matchup. And so we were like, just take the rebounds. It's 6.5 or 7.5, whatever it was. And sure enough, he scored 35. He did not get the boards, but I think, we can go with the rebounds and assists here still because of the situation with the injury report and because Indy's playing differently. And they're allowing now the 7th most assists per game as well during this 11-game span, allowing 31 dimes a game, their last 6 home games, allowing the 6th highest field goal percentage and most attempts at the rim. So Scotty will be able to get in there, whether he's feeding somebody else scoring. If you want to add the points, I'm not going to sneeze at that. But on back-to-back, Scotty has actually averaged more minutes, more rebounds, more assists, and a higher usage rate than in other situations this year. Very young guy, so that's sometimes what you see where the team's willing to lean on him. The last back-to-back, they lost by 23 to Cleveland, and he still played 36 minutes and cruised past this number. So indicates even if Indy does kind of run away with this 10-point spread, Scotty's been getting his minutes. It's the opposite of last year where they were shutting him down because they wanted to protect a draft pick. They're like, no, we want to develop you first and foremost. We want you to be our centerpiece. And Halliburton and TJ McConnell are both questionable. So I don't know if Indy's going to be able to run away as easily if they're missing Hallie. That's for sure. But either way, yeah, I just trust Barnes to get the minutes to pile up some stats here.
I don't think I'm worried about blowouts for Toronto. This is not a bad. Well, look, if IQ and Quick and Poeltl both being out would be a problem for sure. But even if one of those guys is around these days, I'm not as worried about this team. I think IQ is back to full too. He's playing, the full load of minutes. So I haven't seen. There's no report. I don't think they've submitted yet, so we have to wait for that for Toronto. But I'm not just looking at them as just a doormat anymore, especially if teams are going to do things like sit Kristaps and Drew to play Toronto. And then, that is going to be a 10-point game versus the Celtics a lot more often than not, because this is a viable NBA team when they're healthy. They're just a tire fire with the health and everything else you saw is doing. Glad to see Brandon Ingram in there. I guess that'll help. Let's go to the poo-poo bowl, the 76ers and the Knicks, the 2 of the worst defenses in the league anyway, as of late. I'm just mad at my Knicks right now, but I'm still not mad at Josh Hart. In fact, Josh Hart's the reason that they've probably been so poo-poo is his injury, but let's take him to go 10.5 boards. Let's go over that. I don't think you can get plus money on that anymore. I think it's best number is minus 102 on FanDuel now, but I'm still good with that. I think this ends at 11.5. If Cat plays in this game, somebody needs to arrest Tom Thibodeau immediately. I don't know if you saw what happened to Cat in the last game. The dude was on the ground writhing in pain with his knee twisted, a knee that he has a history with, and he goes back in a 20-point loss or whatever. Like, what are we doing in the fourth quarter in February? Like, Tibbs ain't winning a championship with this team, so Cat better not play. That's all I got to say. Or New York is rioting. But if he is a go, I still don't really care because what's happening here is that Joel Embiid's not in this game, and the Josh Hart look in the past has been, hey, you take guys like Josh Hart. He's the one who pointed it out for us last season, which was like, hey, if Embiid's out there, don't take the center to get rebounds. Go under center rebounds versus Embiid. Go over power forward, small forward, whatever athletic wing forward you've got out there. That dude's going to be the one crashing the boards and getting the open rebounds that are available because of the boxing out between the centers. Well, Embiid's not a go, but Philly is still a horrible rebounding team. They're really not even better with Embiid on the floor. They're just bad overall, especially in the rebound percentage. They played pretty slowly a lot this season, so there haven't been as many opponent rebounds allowed. It's the percentage that you look at. The efficiency in the rebounding for them is terrible. Josh Hart is averaging 14 rebounds per game over versus this team since last season in the regular season. Last season, he averaged 12.8 rebounds per game in the regular season, went over in every single one of those on the 10.5 number. And then this season, 12 and then 17 on 26 rebound chances in the last game that they played. And that was without Cat, we should say too, the no Cat, no JoJo game that he did all his work in 49 minutes. So I'm not looking at 17 rebounds or 26 rebound chances or even 49 minutes from Josh Hart again, like he did it in the last time they faced in overtime. But he's still at 18.5 rebound chances per game without Cat, 16.5 with him, at an 58% rebound success rate on the season as well. Really, really good for a dude that's not even 6'6". And you can be like, look, he's played one overtime game without Cat, but other than that, in 5 games without Cat, they've all went to regulation, and he's still playing 41.5 minutes per game. Once again, lock Tibbs up. That's absurd. But if he's going to do it, then in the meantime, I'll make money off of it by knowing that the volume is going to be there for Hart. I have him at about at 36 minutes in this game, and that's with Cat out there. And with Cat out there, I have him at 11.5 boards on another about 16 rebound chances. So I'm fine with him in this one. I think he's going to be going up against guys that he's going to be a better rebounder against anyway. Without JoJo, without Yabu, this should be pretty easy down low for him.
Yeah, as bad as the Knicks defense is, the Sixers offense could match that, right? So we get a lot more rebound chances from a team that can't make anything right now. I do think maybe that, you want this to be competitive enough. I do think Maxey for his 28.5 points, maybe he carries this team at the Garden and they bounce back from a truly embarrassing effort against the Bulls on Monday. So hopefully that correlates. Maybe you want to parlay Maxey to score and Hart to get to like 8-10 boards, because otherwise, yeah, I mean, he's dealing with a knee injury too. So Tibbs, if he has any preservation, would be like, all right, let's get him out of there. Play some of these young wings, maybe against.
It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. If this game is blown out, Josh Hart's gonna be out there in the fourth quarter. And while I'm frustrated, I'm gonna bet on it. So
yeah, well, in that case, Bet Rivers plus. It's 10-1 for a triple double at Bet Rivers. It's 5-1 everywhere else.
Now you're talking. Now
you
got me.
Yeah, if you want to go that route, look at that. So I'm gonna take Keldon Johnson, 11.5 points for the Spurs here. One guy who's gonna definitely step up without Wemby, just getting way more opportunities. Been way more efficient when Wemby has not played this year. He's gone double-digit scoring in 9 straight without Wemby. 18.5 points, 24% usage. In fact, he went 9 straight last season too, to end the season. So 18 of his last 19 overall. He has a 121 offensive rating versus 110 when Wemby's out there, averaging 17.5 a game versus 10.7, double the amount of free throw attempts, shooting 40% from 3. It's just a totally different offense for the Spurs when you have a big man who's actually going to be a big man and set screens and go down there and not try to hit step back threes. So it's clearly worked much better for Keldon, who's hit 2 threes in 3 of his last 4 since Wemby went down here. I mean, specifically since the shutdown, he's shooting 74% from the floor. And he was plus 150 last I checked to hit 2 threes again. Houston, I think he does match up pretty well against Houston on both ends in terms of an athletic team that is getting up and down. Certainly is going to continue to do that if Fred VanVleet's not back. I don't know about that at this point, but without him in the last 12, they've allowed the 5th most paint points and 5th most points off turnovers because they're just not very organized. There were a few times last night where they just threw the ball to nowhere and the Bucks were going the other way for a layup and they're like, thank you. And that's how Keldon Johnson is certainly going to be able to score. He's averaged 14 and 6 boards in 30 minutes per game in 6 matchups with Udoka's Rockets. Very good rebounder, pretty good defender at times. And I mean, they have an elite defensive rebounding rate in the most common lineup with Johnson since Wemby went down, playing at a 116 pace as well. So that's certainly going to be good for your stats. They have a 90 defensive rating in that lineup, and that's without CP3, who maybe sits here because it's a back-to-back. And then we would certainly get more minutes and opportunities for a guy like KJ.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think Chris Paul is going to have the same level of involvement in this game as he did in last night's game either way. And the thing that I was, when you put this up, I was like, Keldon Johnson, what are we doing here? And then I went and looked at it, and you're right that like he's the dude that benefits the most with Wemby out, right? All of his stuff ups by significant percentage in terms of usage and all the rest of it. And Jeremy Sohan still ain't getting it. He still ain't getting the run. I don't know if he's still kind of hurt, but he's not getting more than 20 minutes, even since Wemby went down. And that was the guy I was eyeing right when Wemby went down. And I was like, okay, so now you put in your do everything guy to play like some small ball 5 and not really stretch 4, but real aggressive 4. Didn't really happen. I don't know if he's still hurt or not, but it's been Keldon, and I agree that the points are the way to go for him against Houston. So let me take another fan favorite here. I mean, not a star player either, but Chris Dunn's got some value, my man. And I've got the rebounds and assists here for Chris Dunn in that Clippers game against the Bulls. Over 7.5 on the rebounds and assists is where I'm going. I think you can add the points. It's up to 7.5, I should say. I was going to take this at 6.5 for the points, but I ended up going with the RA once it got up to 7.5 for him. This is in part because he's starting. This is pretty much entirely because he's starting, and he's going to be out there without Norm Powell. So without Norm, and since he's been starting, he's gotten some pretty good minutes on the season. 26 minutes with Norm out, 20 minutes per game with Norm on the floor. And to be fair, like he probably would be even higher in terms of the minutes, but there was a couple of times where games without Norm where he was coming back from injury as well. So it took him a little bit time to get ramped up, but he's fully ramped up now with Norm as well. He's at 6.3 rebounds per game. He's under this 7.5 in 27 of the 40 games he's played with Norm. With Norm with 28 plus minutes, and this is what I want to get to is the minutes with Norm playing 28 plus minutes. He's at 10.4 rebounds and assists per game. He's played without Norm in two games where he's gotten at least 25 minutes, just twice. But in those 2 games, he's averaging 11.5 rebounds and assists. And the assists are a big part of this because Kawhi is out there. So if you put if you take Norm out and you put Kawhi and Harden on the floor with Chris Dunn is at about 5.5 assists per 36 minutes. So you put him at about 28 to 30 minutes tonight. I think he's good for 3.5 to 4 dimes. And the rebounds here, especially the dimes in this one against Chicago, but the rebounds as well. Like a guy that's going to be out in transition with this team, that's how he scores his points. So you know he's getting out into transition and running the break, whether he's leading it or not, he's running it. And there should be opportunities for sort of tip-ins and offensive rebounds in those sort of helter-skelter situations. Plus, even in the half court, there's no Vooch. Like this team does not have a center. So we're talking about like Zach Collins, I guess you'd call him a center. Zubac is about to just eat him for lunch, obviously. And everything around that is going to be like guys having to figure out how to keep Zubac from getting every single offensive rebound. That's going to leave a lot of room open for Chris Dunn to crash, plus on the defensive side as well. So just like the hit rate and the usage that I can expect from him tonight, because if he gets the 28 plus minutes, he's good for the 8 rebounds and assists.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I mean, even though you're eating some juice, yeah, the opportunity is there big time. The Bulls are not playing a lick of defense, and with Norm out, yeah, I mean, Chris Dunn's going to be walking into a huge elevation in minutes here. So, yeah, full cosign on this one.
Nice. Yeah, love it. And if you want a nice little plus money play, if you want a safe play, bankroll builder, over 1.5 steals for Chris Dunn, something he's done in 90% of the games he's played without Norm this season, and 28 plus minutes, I should say. And if you want to get a little frisky and go 3 plus for like plus 250 on Dunn steals, I think that's a pretty good look here against a Chicago team that is just sloppy to say the least. So that's all the time we have for you though in this one. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page. Check out the best bets with those sides and totals looks for you. And don't forget about that email newsletter so you're not missing any of the action on the lines.com, plus that bonus pick from Nate and myself. So until we see you next, happy betting.